up. We have been trying to fit this one into a podcast now for since we literally started.
That was going to be our first episode, I think.
That was literally
the LLC loophole.
Yeah. So we're getting there, right?
Yes.
Are we getting there? Kind of, sort of.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're getting to talk about it a little bit, but I don't know that they're not going to fix it anytime soon. So there is the senator from Manhattan, state senator, Brad Hoylman, who just proposed some ethics reform, some campaign finance reform. And he's a Democrat. He's from Manhattan. I think I already said that. And is being roundly criticized for his attempt to change this, because what he would like to do, which seems simple to me, is he would like people who form an LLC to have to actually list who the principal funding partners are and to keep that information updated as a first step towards more transparency in campaign finance. Because, as we know, these LLCs are able to skirt the individual contribution limits and really heavily fund campaigns. So I was just looking here that in the 2015 election, $20 million were contributed to state candidates through these LLCs who don't have to disclose who they actually are. And individually, Governor Cuomo has been a significant recipient of LLC money, but the most egregious LLCs, the ones that are contributing the most money, are these development firms and Harris Beach LLC, which current employer of former State Senator Mike Nozzolio, who actually sat on a committee that could have closed the LLC loophole and delayed and refused to do so. So it says Harris Beach gave $302,000 just in that one election cycle, when the average contribution from an LLC across the state was only $500. So again, they don't have to say where their money's coming from, and it's not clear where that money is going, except into the treasuries of these lawmakers. And it is the LLC contributions that got Dean Skelos and Sheldon Silver indicted, convicted, now overturned.
Now unconvicted.
And hopefully retried and reconvicted due to talk about loopholes,
a real
legal loophole
yeah.
in the definition of what constitutes bribery. But so the idea is if it were more transparent, then Glenwood Management, which is the LLC that gave all this money to Skelos and Silver and Nozzolio and the woman outside of Buffalo and the guy from Utica, whose names are escaping me at the moment. But anyway, all these people who either are out of office now, either through choice, by force, or by some other means, they want certain legislation passed or not passed, and so they make these huge contributions, and it's a quid pro quo. That's anyone who says that an election donation over, I don't know, $1,000 or something is not about gaining access or currying favor or somehow getting extra attention to an issue is simply not telling the truth. I mean, that's why people contribute large sums of money to elected officials, because they want to get on their radar screen.
Right.
I'm not saying it guarantees they're going to vote a certain way, but they want to get onto their radar screen. And it's got to change. I mean, if these campaign finance reports were required to list the names of the people giving the money, and then you'd see the same name, because again, Glenwood Management had like 22 or 23 sub LLCs, all funded from the same source, but through all these different things. So you would read campaign finance report like Nozzolio's, and you would see, 9th Street LLC, Manhattan Development LLC. But then it came out through the trials of Skelos and Silver that those are all really just the same person. They all are traced back to the same person. If it were reported, this guy has given, hundreds of $1,000s to these legislators, it would go a long way toward good government oversight and accountability. So this guy's proposal to just create this LLC registry is being criticized, and now the criticism that he's getting is that his legislation is anti-Trump, right? Because I feel like that given the political climate, rather than making it about New York politics, the people who oppose it want to make it about national politics. So they said that because Trump received $300 billion from LLCs, that's why this guy is trying to close the loophole. Which he said no, he's been talking about this for years. But both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, there has not been a stomach to get this done. And they keep saying Governor Cuomo wants to get it done, but he hasn't put any real effort into getting it done. He's gotten a lot of things done. If this was a priority, he could do it, probably, or at least talk about it.
So my problem with this, like a lot of these really, really big, deep-rooted political issues, is that I don't think the will exists. And I believe that was a line that Cuomo actually used on another topic last budget season. He said, I don't think the will doesn't exist within the chambers. I don't think the political will exists to truly take the money out of big state politics. No. That's just a fact.
Well, the political will, if it's defined as the attitude of the people in office, you're right. But do I think the regular person on the street, the public who are actually supposed to be in charge, if they understood what was going on, would they want it changed? Yes. But the state representatives are so disconnected from what the people in their jurisdictions want, because they aren't giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars, that it's not going to get done anytime soon.
I'm even more skeptical than that. I don't think enough regular people care because it's such a large, overwhelming issue. I think you could do all the educating in the world, but I don't think that it's going to change what the average guy on the street or girl on the street is thinking or saying about this, because there are other more pressing issues. We mentioned one of them, infrastructure, earlier. Mm-hmm. Infrastructure is one of those things where everyone can kind of get on the same page. And this whole money discussion, you mentioned the Trump thing. Yeah. It always becomes, that's politically motivated to target this person or that official or that entity or that business. It's ridiculous. It's a completely ridiculous conversation to even have, because what it literally requires is a complete reset, not like a little, closing this one loophole. If we had the time and the energy to go through every ounce of, election rule and law, there are probably thousands of loopholes where money can somehow find its way through a back channel. Right. And that is the problem. And I think that was actually, if there is this will to sort of change the way politics happens, I think it's more in the way of actual practice. I think we saw it last year with the Bernie Sanders push. I'll say the whole really grassroots, small donations, forced kind of
$27,
where people just do it rather than banking on this legislation that's going to change the world. Right. Because I don't think that part of it's going to ever happen.
But I don't want to be that cynical and say that there's no point, because I'm also not a consequentialist, right? I don't want to only put my effort into things that I think are going to have an immediate benefit. Like, if it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. And I think taking big money, you're right, taking the money out of politics is probably never going to happen. But taking secret money out of politics, taking anonymous money out of politics, that'd be a good place to start. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, people get really upset for the most part, I hope. I hope people still get upset if somebody is blatantly working in their own self-interest. So like if I'm a contractor and I see that, if I'm a contractor and I see that the county I live in is going to start awarding certain contracts and I decide to run for county supervisor, people should be upset. Now, I think we'll talk about this next time on our election special, because that happens in local government. I mean, that could potentially happen in Geneva. But, you know, the idea, that is kind of on the face of it. You see the person who's looking to benefit themselves. This LLC thing is so sneaky. That's what bugs me. You know, if you want to try to subvert the legislative process for your own benefit, at least have the decency to do it in daylight instead of doing it in some sneaky covert way that just can't. I don't know. Yeah, it bothers me.
Yeah, and you know what,
if you can't
I think
tell.
Generally speaking, I think what you're saying is right. It's not wrong. But it's just one of those things where it's so overwhelming for most people to try and consume that I think it becomes almost something of biblical proportion that you're trying to solve. And I just don't know that it's possible given the current political climate.
Yeah, but I'm not going to stop chipping away at it because someo's got to stay on it.
Keep chipping. Somebody has to. Speaking of chipping away or getting chippy as it may be, this has been